Hey guys, today I want to talk about this book. This book is called The Secret Diary of Admiral Byrd, but honestly, I hate to burst some bubbles, but I don't think this is real. I'm going to go into that. And I think this book might as well have been called The Secret Diary of Napoleon or George Washington. I believe his name was just tacked onto this fictional story. And many of my fellow conspiracy theorists would love to believe that this tale is true, and I find it very interesting as well. It would be very cool if it was true as well. I just don't believe it is. First, I wanted to read Admiral Byrd's books that were published within his lifetime, and one of the first things that I noticed going through them was that they were extremely detailed, just almost obsessive detail. This man was impeccable in his detail. And the secret diary that we're offered is very, very short. In fact, it's not even a book at all. This is just printed as a book to make you think that it's actually a book, but really it's like one sentence on each page. You could probably type it out in 2 pages. It's stretched across 100. So the writing itself is very out of character, and I understand that it's supposed to be written like on the go, like he's in the plane writing this. But he did have time to go back and fill in the details after, and there's just a short description, and even his descriptions are not very detailed, whereas everything else about his life was detailed. And again, he paid great attention to detail. He took his life very seriously, took his positions very seriously. And even if this was secret, I just imagine by his other writings that he's the type of guy who would sit down and he would really flesh it out. He wouldn't give you a brief description like the buildings look like they were made of crystals. And even he's quoted in here saying something like, I can't even find words to describe this. Well, Admiral Richard Byrd would probably sit down and try and find the words for this. He's absolutely the type of man to do so. He's also the type of man to go into great detail about minor things to help shed light on a bigger picture. Meaning if he could only gather details about the shoes that the people were wearing, he would probably give you those details. He would say, you know what, this is the only thing that I saw in detail. Maybe it's of some relevance. He's trained and professional enough to know that all details could be important. And he really didn't record any actual useful details. It looks like it's written to be a story, and that's not the way that Admiral Byrd wrote. And his other books are very lengthy. Now, in his other books, there's not a hint of conspiracy, which we would expect. Admiral Byrd was good at his job, and if he had a secret to keep, I imagine he would have kept it. And quite honestly, I imagine he wouldn't even have written it down. I think he was for the team. He was on the team. He was not going to spill the beans. So this diary says that he came back many years later, 9 years later, and filled in some more, like, oh, I went and I talked to the government about this, but they told me to keep it quiet, so I kept it quiet. And then eerily, like a movie, he's predicting the end is near. Meanwhile, he died at 68 years old of heart trouble in his sleep. This creates the conspiracy, of course, that maybe he was assassinated and he knew that he was going to be taken out. Maybe because of this information and this secret that he was hiding. It just all sounds like fantasy, and we don't have evidence to actually even suggest that he wrote it, because we don't even have a story on who collected the diary and who published it. This was published in 1990, so I'm assuming it was written 1989 or 1990, and at this time, this coincidentally is the peak of the Cold War concern for mutually assured destruction with nuclear war. This was one of the biggest concerns of humanity at that time, that this book was written, not during the time that the diary was supposedly written, or 1947. And in this tale, when they go and meet with these advanced beings, they warn Admiral Byrd about nuclear war. In fact, they give the justification for allowing Admiral Byrd to come into their realm. They say it's because we want to warn you about nuclear weapons. Now, this sounds just like a regular concern of a politically minded person in 1989 or 1990 who wrote this. A group of people maybe. I highly doubt that the advanced beings were concerned about nuclear weapons, given that I myself, along with many conspiracy theorists these days, we believe nuclear weapons are also a hoax. That's for another day. But if nuclear weapons are not real, and that was just another thing made up to keep us in fear-based mind control and spin our reality through the media, well then There's no way the advanced beings are going to be concerned about something that doesn't exist. And there's no way that they're going to call Admiral Byrd in and say, hey, you got to warn humanity about nuclear weapons. And obviously, he never did warn humanity about nuclear war publicly or officially, and nothing about nuclear war even really ever happened. So these advanced beings, maybe they stopped it all, but I think that was all smoke and mirrors in the first place. And there are conflicting theories as to when this really even was written, whether it was during Operation High Jump on the missing 3 hours that Admiral Byrd had on his last flight there. That's very interesting to speculate, but I think this book was literally just written as like, hey, what if he had a secret diary during that time? What do you think he really saw? I actually think that's how this started. I think that's what this is. This is imagination, because there's other people saying that this was actually written during a polar expedition, and I believe that's what it actually says in the book. It's also odd that this book, or any version of it, doesn't seem to have a story of who found these. Now, probably the most clear-cut piece of evidence that this is a fake, to me, is that there was an actual secret diary of Admiral Byrd found in 1996, and this is confirmed through his handwriting, so this is believable. To me, it's believable. And this picture has actually been shown on some videos when people are reading the secret diary of Admiral Byrd. They're showing this diary. That's another diary. And interestingly, that diary has led many historians to believe that Admiral Byrd didn't even make it to the North Pole, that was just kind of something the US military said, hey, we made it to the North Pole. They wanted to take credit for it. And I think I actually agree with the historians that he probably didn't make it to the North Pole, based on the actual secret diary that we found, just not this one that I bought on Amazon. So I actually do think Admiral Richard Byrd is a very interesting person. I also think he had a good character. I mean, he seems like a very respectable person by all means. And I feel that this book is a cheap trick, just using his name. And it's great for us to have conspiracy theories, but it's not great for us to create theories based on fictional stories. We need to have some evidence as our foundation. So unfortunately, I don't recommend this book. I don't recommend using this story where they're talking about flat Earth or hollow Earth or aliens in Antarctica, UFOs, flying saucers. I don't think it's a credible story, and I think there's much more credible evidence that we can use to make any of these cases. So that's all I've got today, guys. Appreciate you. Until next time. And make sure to check out my art account, Notice Art. Got a lot of stuff on there, but I've also thrown up pretty much a free course in how to paint in oils and do it economically. I'm gonna put lots of other stuff there. And I've also published a book of my drawings. It's kind of my life work. It's about 20 years worth of drawings, and it's up on Amazon at a pretty good price, I think.